Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for making time for this podcast so early in the morning. Well, before we start, let us quickly name this session. So, the session is called The Leadership Edge Transformative Journeys to the Top. So, welcome here. I would first like to introduce Mr. Vishal Gupta, the first guest today, who's the Principal Investments from ICICI Prudential AMC. Hi, Vishal.
Hi,
Thank you for
Madhu.
joining us.
Pleasure.
Vimalendra Singh, the Chief Business Officer Residential from Mahindra Lifespaces. Hi, Vimal. Thanks again for joining us for the talk show. Then I have Ashish Dhami with me, Chief Sales and Marketing and Product Design from Raheja Corp Homes. Thanks, Ashish.
Thank you for having me.
And Tejas Patil here, the founder of Arbour Investments. I think let's clap for each other for being here in the morning. Okay, so welcome to the Leadership Journeys, the Transformative Journeys to the Top, a podcast where we deep dive into the experiences, challenges, and trumps of some of the most influential leaders in the industry like yourself. I'm exhilarated to have some inspiring and exciting conversation with all of you with stellar panel, and we have here today industry experts from real estate and the alternative space who have not only navigated paths to thrive post-pandemic but also took their growth curve to an unbelievable level. It's great to have a chat with the extraordinaires. Now let's get started. Okay. So let's kick things off with a brief introduction. Can each of you share a bit about your current roles and what initially drew you to your respective industries? I have my first question to Vishal. Please help us with a small introduction.
So, Madhu, I've been working with ICICI Group for 18 years. That is where I started my career. And they were kind enough to put me on real estate, and the sector has grown so well. And I'm grown with the firm in the sector. So that's been me. So I currently lead the office real estate acquisition strategy at ICICI Prudential.
Great. Yeah, moving on to Vimal. Would you like to share about yourself here?
So first of all, good morning, Madhu, and good morning to my fellow colleagues here. Vimalendra Singh, I'm the Chief Business Officer Residential at Mahindra Lifespaces. So I manage the overall residential business from a P&L perspective for the company. Not a real estate guy, because given I was 13 years into banking, so I made a shift into real estate post 13 years into the banking world. And very excited to be part of real estate, given that what it is doing currently and its importance in the overall economic journey of the country.
True.
And very, very excited and optimistic about the future, and look forward to more discussion with all of you.
Lovely. Please introduce yourself to the group.
Well, hi, Ashish on the side. I've been with the residential business of Raheja Corp for the last 6 years now. And very similar to the journey Vimalendra has had, I've been a career banker post making the shift, but I've spent almost more than a decade and a half now in real estate. And the journey has been truly enriching in terms of taking the skills of distribution, which I learned the ABCs for, moving into roles which are more to do with getting closer to the consumer in terms of ensuring now that I look at not just the consumer verticals, but I also look at design overall.
Lovely.
So the idea here is, because as a business, we are a very consumer-focused, consumer-centric business where product is right at the center. I think that's an important edge that a consumer-facing role needs to have.
Sure.
And I think that's it's a very different kind of role, which is unlike any other organization, wherein the sales, marketing, customer CRM guy is also looking at design. So I think that's the front and center of our business. And I think unlike the rest of the industry, which is going leaps and bounds, where scale is a new normal, for us, scale really means getting closer to the customer and having an edge in terms of what he wants in terms of quality of life. So that's been my journey here, and it's an exciting journey that I'm having.
Great, lovely, great to know. Moving on to Tejas.
Yeah, hi, good morning everyone.
Morning.
I've been into finance and real estate right from the start. It's been 18 years now. Started my career as a capital market specialist, then into wealth advisory.
Sanctum, big role.
Then as a fund manager, then Sanctum as heading the real estate vertical. But all throughout, I've been on the investor side, okay, and also on the real estate side. So we started Arbour more than 3 years ago now. the idea was to implement all those learnings that we've had in the last 18 years and see that we have a business model which is robust and sees the future very strongly, and able to move along and implement those learnings really well.
Lovely. Thank you so much for this great introduction, all of you. So we'll move to the first segment of questions, which is, we'll take a couple of minutes to cover this, which is going to be post-pandemic strategies. And we are very excited to know what you have done differently. So moving to Vishal, my first question here is that amidst the pandemic challenges, ICICI Prudential commercial portfolio managed to avoid vacancies and even experienced 10 to 15% of rental growth. Correct me if we have our facts right, under your leadership. What strategies did you employ to ensure stability and growth during such uncertain periods?
So Madhu, the period was very, very uncertain. So I think what has really helped us stand apart has been our processes, honestly, and the result has been just a thing which has happened out of it. So what have we been very meticulous in selecting assets into markets where the demand has been primarily been higher than the suppliers. So that has really
that equation has helped you.
That equation has really helped us, because I think real estate is a very, very cyclical sector, is what we believe.
Correct.
And if you are in a right cycle at a point of time, you obviously will be better placed vis-a-vis whatever headwinds you face. So that is number one which helped us. And second, I think we are very, very active managers at the firm. We have ears really close to the ground at our end, and we're very nimble-footed, being a domestic firm. So the decision making is very, very quick at our end. So getting data in, understanding what's really changing helped us. And I think with this process and our ability to select those markets where there was no supply, tenants knew that had they vacated these premises, they will really not get anything. And a little bit of luck at our side, we were able to.
So perhaps if I put it in right management words, like a spin strategy that you perhaps would have used in terms of situation analysis, kind of probing, understanding, drawing inferences, and then coming up with the right solutions, timing the market, as you rightly said.
Yeah, so basically being fundamentally right, and even when there are headwinds, we were able to navigate better.
Super.
With the
Great. Thanks, Vishal, for this. However, now for some fun. I'm still not done with you. Can you share a hilarious or unexpected career goof up that you have experienced? Something that you look back on and laugh about, even if it was a bit embarrassing at that point in time?
So I think it was, I think ICICI has been a great learning school for me, to be honest. I was at the bank early in my career. I had done my chartered accountancy. I was a credit guy. And they asked me to take up a sales role. And I was like, really? How would I?
I'm talking about a particular goof up. I'm more keen to knowing that.
Goof ups, really, in a career, I would have really... I honestly would not really, I think the firm's been very, very supportive in terms of whatever decisions, whatever ways we've really gone. And they've been pretty much supportive in terms of goof ups. I think nothing comes to mind. Yeah, if I just, maybe I think about it and come back to
So maybe after the podcast. Yeah, okay. Moving on to Vimal. So Mahindra Zen, Bangalore's first net zero waste plus energy residential project, it witnessed a phenomenal response. As we understand, selling 150 homes totaling to 350 plus crores is what your media talks about, in value in just about 2 odd days. What do you believe resonated most with the buyers in this particular project? Could you share some insights on that?
Yeah. So the latest information is that we are all sold out in that particular project. So that was an old media fact. But let me talk about sustainability. And I think Mahindra Lifespaces as a company, we take a lot of pride in saying that we are the only company which is completely green. In a sense, the entire portfolio is green. And over the last 2.5 years, there's a specific focus on net zero. Now, what do you mean by net zero? Obviously, there will be certain pluses, minuses, but eventually it should be a self-sustaining project. Now, in the net zero scheme, there are 3 major components, which is net zero water, net zero energy, and net zero waste.
Correct.
Right? And we strongly believe, and that's part of our RISE strategy, that we borrow this planet from our future generations. There's a lot of responsibility that we owe to all the future generations which are going to come up, right? And we can't be simply saying that, hey, in our lifetime we'll be consuming all the resources and we'll leave none for the future generations. Think of our kids, right? What are we leaving them better off, or are we leaving them worse off? I mean, that's the thought behind it. So everything that we do from a sustainability perspective is not necessarily market driven. It is not necessary to say that, hey, because I'm a sustainable project, I need to get an extra premium from the consumer. It is frankly very much a need of the hour. It is a need of our times, and it is a responsibility. And I'm glad a lot of my fellow competitors in the industry have started to travel on that particular path. And I'm very, very confident that net zero is not going to be a variable, it's going to be a constant.
But here, not sounding conflicting, Vimal, I would like to also understand, as we read news and all, a lot of developing companies have pushed, things to the, developed countries have pushed things to developing countries. Is net zero, which normally said that, the developing countries are looked more like a dumping ground. Now, how effective or how feasible from a futuristic perspective net zero is going to be? Can you please share some insights on that?
Very, very, very important question, and it's a very big question, right? It will take a lot of time in terms of to discuss. There's a lot of geopolitics involved. There's a lot of thinking involved. Yes, there's a valid argument saying that, hey, the developed countries are already developed, and then why are you trying to curtail the growth of the emerging economies or the growth countries? But having said that, when there's a climate change, for whatever good or bad reasons, we can't change the history. The history is what it is. We are at this particular point of time today. And standing today, what is it that we can do as individuals? It's not just, we cannot leave this problem only to the governments or only to the corporations. It's even an individual responsibility, right? And as a group, we firmly believe, and frankly, there's a survey, a lot of the people globally believe that the corporates can make a significant change as opposed to the governments. Because, I think
more structured, more
they have a greater faith, and this is basis the survey, so I will not get into the merits of it.
Yeah.
And so valid point, but I guess if we just leave that aside for a moment and say that, hey, what is it that I can do? What is it that my company can do? How can I influence my company to take that step towards sustainable growth?
That's why I took the question. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have taken that plunge. We have committed that by 2030, all our projects will be net zero.
Oh, that's amazing to know.
We have publicly gone out. We're a listed player. We've publicly gone out, and you will increasingly see every single project will either be one, or in future going forward it could be all the three combinations, and which is a significant investment in the projects that we do, because there's a lot which goes into planning, into procurement, into trying to make it truly a net zero.
Correct.
The other thing is, you make a net zero project, but you need to be able to educate your customers also. What are the benefits of net zero? And once you hand over the project to the society, you need to be able to handhold and navigate them through, saying that, hey, it's a net zero project. We have handed it over to you. This is the way you run it. So it's quite a lot of education and walking together and trying to get everybody together in this particular
in the journey.
And I believe we are doing our bit, and we request everybody else to join.
And I think perhaps one of the reasons why we also had alignment with the AISL for endorsing this particular philosophy. Okay, so now Vimal, I would quickly switch gears, and hear about a memorable goof up from your career that makes for a great story. Was there a moment when things went hilariously wrong, and how did you handle it?
So, we wouldn't be where we are if we had not goofed up in the past. If you have not goofed up in the past, means you haven't tried enough.
So, any particular thing that you can share with us?
There are obviously many things. I'll give you an example from very early in my career, very, very early in my career. I passed out from Mahindra, and generally on a lighter note, I can say people who pass out from Mahindra think that they'll become CEOs in the next 3 years, 4 years. It doesn't happen. 21 years down the line, we are still waiting for that to happen. So given that I was a management associate in Citibank, I was invited to attend the management meetings. And the early exuberance,
rush of blood, and
full exuberance, I would put it to that. And when I was sitting in that management committee meeting, there was a sales head, very, very senior guy, was making a presentation about credit cards business. And obviously Citibank credit cards those days used to
Were
be
absolutely the best.
and we were giving free credit cards, right? No annual fee and
Yeah.
things like that. And then when he showed the performance of the salespeople, somebody sold 5 cards, somebody sold 7 cards, somebody sold 10 cards. So I was wondering, the best card in the world, no AMF, free lounge access, free golf access. Why can't we sell 1 card a day? And the power of restraint I learned that day. So I shouldn't have spoken up. But I said, this is not a good performance. And my country manager, country head was a very wise guy. He didn't say anything to me that day. He called me the next day and said, hey, Vimal, why don't you move to sales? I started in marketing incidentally. So one was I was in credit card marketing. And he says, why don't you move to sales? It's quite an exciting field.
Yeah.
I moved to sales and no surprises. Very soon I realized even the free card to sell it one card a day is very, very difficult. So the learning that I had is many a times, we may never truly able to appreciate what others do till the time you actually do that particular role.
Absolutely.
Theoretically, things seem to be so logical, so correct.
Correct.
But practically, when you're actually doing it, the world is very, very different.
Ah.
So that was my learning, and I hope I can pass on that learning. to
Amazing,
other people.
amazing,
What a great
amazing.
example, yeah.
Great, yeah. So moving on to Ashish now.
Yeah.
Vivaria, with a 1700 crore project in Bangalore, which has got a huge potential, has generated remarkable buzz. Could you walk us through the vision behind this project and share your future plans for Bangalore ahead?
Well, I think, the residential businesses, Raheja Corp, certainly has this powerful brand. As a business, we really don't make too many projects with the Raheja name put up there. We look at each of these assets that we developed in the past and think we did it so well. Can we repeat it? So Vivaria is one such strong brand that we have within our portfolio, which was born out of Mahalakshmi maybe in 2008.
Oh,
But we loved the fact that project we fought off temptation over business cycle. We had Vishal talk about cyclicality of this business. The cyclicality of the business for a lot of developers means, can I go asset light when the chips are down? I think we stay put in a sense that we went from tower to tower. We built 5 towers, and funnily though, they all look the same today. And this has happened over a period of 15 years. The last we delivered in 23, the first we started in 2008.
yeah.
So it's been a 15-year journey, almost 2 million
And you've
square
made
feet
such a remarkable
delivered
mark in
in
this
Mahalakshmi.
city. Yeah.
And we fought off all those temptations, and today look at the way we've seen it play. We've seen it play during the downtimes. It was the best defensive play you could have had in the country, wherein that asset never dipped in terms of value. And when there was an upside, it was an exponential upside that people have. It transformed that location. So it was a very powerful brand for us, even when we launched our Bangalore project. A project here at Bangalore has a lot of similarities to the Mahalakshmi Vivaria that we carry.
Okay.
Notably, these are all expansive spaces. An average sellable area would be in the sale of about 3,000 to 3,500. So there are multi-crore homes that we are selling here. We've ensured that we've not degentrified this project one bit. We've ensured that we've always stood the test of time with our customers. The project possibly saw some of the most difficult phases, including the pandemic, wherein this project essentially was on the books of our hotel company, and we all knew what happened in the pandemic. You will be surprised to note that there have been about 100 residents of ours who've chosen to be with us through thick and thin over the last many years.
So what did you do to build this loyalty?
No, I sense we were as transparent as possible. When we
Okay.
got hit with a regulatory surprise, I think we were frank enough to tell them, hey, if you stay with us, we're happy to keep you. And hey, if this is your opportunity cost, it's not that it's going to be a lose-lose, it's going to be a win-win. If I am in this project, I'm also willing to share that opportunity cost with you to a certain degree. And a lot of times we've seen customers truly are cynical of the term developers, right? Let me put it, builders. That's the way we were historically known. I think they're cynical of that term because nobody trusts you. But I think here is a classical example where almost 70% of our audience who bought with us chose to stay with us, all through thick and thin. Today we are on a stage where we've received the occupation certificates of 9 out of the 11 towers. None of our customers want to exit. They've ridden this wave. They want to still stay with us. They think that this project is worth its weight in gold. And let me tell you, after 8 years, 9 years of staying with us, there is technically no need of consumption, because given these large sizes, these are meant for end use. They're not meant for investment. So it is important to understand that for each of one who stayed with us, they actually thought that while I'm not going to stay there because my needs have been met over the past many years, I still would like to keep it for estate or whatever otherwise.
Okay.
So I think that's been the very bedrock of the brand Vivaria. And I think we hope to deliver this later this year, and we hope it keeps getting
I'm sure.
in a state which is only bettered, because for us it's not just the project, it's also the community.
Yep.
And the community in Mumbai, Vivaria is one of the top-notch communities considered in the city of Bombay, and we hope the
You're
Kormangla
able
community,
to emulate the
we are
same
able
thing.
to emulate the same at Kormangla.
Great, thank you. Now, similarly, like others, I would also come back to the same question, that we have those moments that don't go quite well planned. What was one of your funniest career blunders, and how did it turn into a story that you can laugh about now?
Well, I think Vimalendra set a good precedent by talking of the yesteryears, and I when he was speaking about, I was kind of reminiscing how I started off my career, and a very similar story. Management school pass out, moving from classroom to the field, because I started my career straight in sales, so it was baptism by fire. In the city of Surat in Gujarat. Though being a Gujarati, I used to never converse fluently in that language. And I thought MBA was all about education, was all about being able to present well and speak well. And I thought maybe sales, great money, let's get into it. I took it up very encouragingly, and I joined a company called Tata Teleservices, where I began my career. And this was in the boom years of telecom, which is 2004. And my regional manager called me and said, hey, great, they did a round of GD, they did personal interventions, they did group discussions, and they had multiple filters before they got us selected. Amongst the 3 or 4 of people that we got selected there, we went there, very encouraged, enthusiastic. He said, hey, this is your project, you got to go to a place called Valsad. And we're running a business called the pay telephony business, which is about STD PCOs, which were great during those days. Okay, all those yellow boxes, if you remember, ISD, STD, PCO likha rehta tha.
True.
I said, that's interesting. I said, why you gave me this project? He said, Ashish, because the revenue lines are so high that, it's a difficult business to be in. So I asked him, why are we only in the business? He said, only BSNL and we are in the business because each STD PCO line runs a billing of 30,000 a month. And all these industrial areas have people, migrants, labor force, which come and work there. And I found it super exciting. I said, 15,000-20,000 ka billing, matlab I'm going to focus on revenue. My colleague there is focusing on subscribership. He's running pillar to post, trying to find subscriber. And I'm here doing very... Then he said, your project is not about selling these. Your project is about ensuring that the guys who've defaulted, you got to go and bring these home. That entire apparatus, at time it was known as Tata Indicom, that was the brand name. Red painted, as red as it can get. You got to take this out physically and get it home. Okay? And that's where I started thinking, hey, what have I signed up for? A management grad. This looks like vasuli, of sorts. And it was literally vasuli, but of a nice kind. And I made conversation with the dealers, distributors, and I suddenly started realizing, hey, I just don't know how to converse. I'm speaking in a language which they don't understand. They're speaking in a tongue. And they certainly know this guy is raw, okay? So they're taking me for a ride. So I think these were the difficult times. But closer back, very recently, COVID, I think, it wasn't a personal incident, I can assure you. But yes, of course, there were numerous incidences of people being on calls, looking great, and forgetting to switch off the camera. Right? And there were several of these.
That is good one.
So I think the COVID time, in a sense, brought back a little bit of
some
fun.
bit of humor and fun as well.
So
Great. So lovely, thank you. So moving to Tejas, you have done some wonders, which I would really eulogize you for. The recent remarkable success with the Altitude, South Mumbai's new architectural marvel, set to redefine the skyline with its Manhattan-style skylofts. Leading such a project demands vision and investment, of course. What was the driving force behind this bold move for you?
Okay. So there were a few thoughts that were considered, because it's South Bombay. Correct. The crowd is different from anywhere in the country. They have their own expectations. They have the money.
Yeah.
In a market like this, and on that stretch, which from Haji Ali till Tardev, we did a ground level a search, as in who would be my client there, and who would actually buy it in a very small circle, because the project wasn't very large. Correct? How would I differentiate a project where all the apartments are all 1800, 2000, 3000, and going up to 10,000 square feet?
Wow.
How do I have a small project create a differentiator and also get sold and cater to the crowd which is on that stretch, which we really counted, and which was, let's say, 800 to 1000 business guys. Correct? Because that stretch is all AC market and a very specific community, 2 or 3 communities. So that's what the architect, it's commendable that he came up with a design which has worked well abroad. Correct? Keeping the sizes really small, extremely efficient. We came up with a plan which said that if you have to live in a house and have that spaciousness and still have a very small square footage, a footprint of, let's say, less than 1,000 square feet, that gives me benefit of everything. You get a much roomier space. You're catering to a crowd who doesn't have that 10-15 crores to spend, because these guys are business owners who have been sustained as business owners in small ones. So they don't mind spending a 5 crore, 6 crore or lesser amount, but they have the aspirations to live in that particular micro market. So we said, let's have a skyloft design, but not the entire project, because it was obviously a trial. So we divided the project in regular linear apartments and the top floors, above 27 floors with skylofts, and we got a really good demand. So
I have a question here, sir.
Yes.
Did you also see, people moving from the other part of the city, like the Mumbai, the western suburbs and the central suburbs? Have they also kind of upgraded by moving here, or are we only talking about the ones, restricted to that particular?
No, see, you have to be open. Okay, see, the idea is your project has to be sustainable basis your assumptions. Correct? But yes, more the merrier always. We have seen inquiries not from the extreme north, but obviously because the criteria and the catchment was very specific. But we have seen people who had that capability, and they never thought they could get as south as the Pedder Road in this particular ticket size.
Yeah. So what is the percentage, if I may ask, vis-a-vis the same demography and people from the other suburbs?
So we have buyers from Vadala, Shivri, and we have buyers from Bandra. Yes, Bandra is still south, I would say. We have buyers from Kandivli. Yes. But yes, I would say 25-30% is the north crowd, which was a little higher than we expected. But majorly our assumption was true. Majorly the sale has been, the early sales when the project was launched has been along that stretch only.
Lovely, great. So now moving on to my next question for the session for you. Pandemic was a time of transformation for many. How did it affect you personally, and what new perspectives did you gain out of that?
Okay. So if you remember, during the pandemic, there was a lot of activity on the phone. I mean, your WhatsApps and your emails, they were buzzing with things that you can do at home, right? A lot of philosophical activity, philosophical suggestions that you sit and meditate.
Too much of content.
Too much content, read and do courses and, upgrade yourself. Why just sit? Utilize the 24 hours that you have, utilize the time you save in commuting to work, and none of that happened. Okay, so but yes, one thing which I will tell you is that we assume that those 2 years would be bad for business. Okay, because it's real estate. You can't step out, and how do you then do your business? How do you sell? How do you do the fundraising? I've been on the fundraising side.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, that was the best year that we had, because it wasn't from the investor side. The demand was a lot from the development community, the developers, because they had no access to capital. Absolutely. And they were dying for a little bit of working capital. So we made the most out of it, where, obviously remotely, whatever was possible. That was one. And yes, on the lighter side, I also tried my hand doing a lot of online courses through Coursera and all of that. I don't know whether they helped or not, or they will help or not. But
I'm sure anything that's invested, nothing goes wasted. So that's great. So lovely. Now we move to the last section, very quick. As we delve into the future, let's turn our gaze to the event we all gathered today here for, which is AISL Edition 2. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this initiative, might intersect with the evolving landscape of your respective fields. So my question to Vishal here would be, thank you for being a presenting partner to begin with, and all the support and believing in the, having the conviction in the product. How does AISL add value to large-scale real estate and alternative investments? And what role do you see it playing in shaping the future of these sectors?
So Madhu, real estate is a very, very important sector of the economy, and as companies grow, as cities grow, we do real estate. So my most favorite line is, growing cities attract ambitious people, and one of the ways to play that ambition and growth is investing into real estate. So that is what we all do, and I think it is a great conference which AISL has organized. Put everybody's mind together. We hear so much about all other asset classes today.
True.
But real estate as an asset class is a forum where people are coming together and giving a little view of the runway of what the industry is really thinking about. I think it's a great initiative that you're bringing in industry experts and people around to have a more interactive session on.
How do you see it differently from other real estate? Because this will also help us to improvise furthermore. So there are so many conferences that happens in real estate and broking and all of that. Where do you see a difference between AISL and these? Do you see any difference?
No, I think this is a conference which I'm seeing. We do have a lot of real estate conferences with industry experts, but it's more B2B. But I think this is a conference where you've invited family offices and people who are really getting impacted by the sector, and to give them a bird's eye view of what's really happening to this sector. And it is not just a B2B, I think it's more B2C from their perspective.
I would say it's 70% B2C and another 30% B2B, because we also have institutional guys, investors. So yeah, great, thank you. Moving to Vimal, you have been a seasoned banker, as we all know. And of course, we being peers, we understand what we are bringing onto the table. With your extensive experience in banking particularly, how do you view AISL as a platform that bridges the family offices and the real estate?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for organizing this conference, and I echo what you
Thank
said.
you for partnering with us.
Yeah, and it's about, it's a vast sector. There are various other sub-sectors which are kind of influenced by reality. And fundamentally, it is very intrinsically linked to the country's economic progress, right? And I give these statistics, and I'll come to your question. India contributes to, real estate in India
70%.
contributes almost 7.5% of the GDP. If you look
13
at,
now, I think it has come down.
No,
It's
it
13.
was never 13%. It was close to 7.5, 8%. If you looked at any developed economy, maybe China, Europe, or US, the typical contribution is 15 to 18%. So we've got a significant runway if we truly have to become a developed nation. So that's the contribution of real estate, in addition to everything else that it impacts, whether it be the labor, material, concrete, steel, so many things. And what this particular conference has done, and what got me excited, is you mentioned about HNI people. So it's basically, the opportunities and investors coming together at the same time.
Yes.
And we will be, talking to them. They'll be understanding what various developers are doing and what are the various opportunities which are available both on the financing side and on the investing side. And generally, I'm quite happy at the kind of quality of people that you've been able to get together.
Thank you.
Because you asked this question about, yes, there are many conferences which happen, and they will continue to happen. But ultimately, it's the quality of brain, it's the quality of ideas.
And the content
and
that
the
we are able
content.
to.
And if right set of people come together, I think we can truly make a difference.
Yeah, because one thing, Vimal, I would like to add here, that while I've been a banker and understanding family offices very closely, usually a majority portion of their monies are invested into hard assets. But today in India, the problem is that real estate is still, I would say, evolving sector in getting structured, unlike the other asset classes. So what happens is in the process, the servicing gets a little compromised with intermediary brokers and all of that. Family offices today are seeking out for platforms which will actually have a direct connect and somebody who will understand the business to put them together. So I think from that perspective, that is our endeavor. Also, one more thing before I move to the next question is that Western countries have already consolidated. So you'll see today not a lot of money is getting invested. They are at the phase with guys in the age groups of 65 and above. They're consolidating wealth. They're not allocating wealth.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us, the developing country, a lot of scope in kind of deploying the wealth the right way. In fact, India today is globally one of the largest players in terms of the HNI growth, and also in the cities, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai ranks the highest. So I think a lot of scope for bringing the entire ecosystem together, and that's what our endeavor would be.
Yeah, and just to add a final point and valid point, if you look at the kind of even retail investment
Yeah.
in REITs which are happening
Right.
in India, the number of REITs
Right.
are also growing.
Right.
It was a very foreign concept. It has come to India in a big
India.
way. There are various different formats which are coming up.
Yeah. They're acclimatizing to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including, the fractional ownership. Now,
Correct.
there's a
Big
talk
time.
about regulation coming around it. So, people and including the young investors, frankly, have a way, and I'm sure this will explode as in coming times, to be able to invest in smaller amounts in real estate.
Correct.
Not necessarily only in the larger.
Like how we had initially PMS from 1 crore went down to 25, allowing a lot of people. From 25 lakhs, it again now gone to 1 CR. So I think, what you're saying makes sense. So great. Thank you, Vimal. Moving on to Ashish. See, we are honored to have you. I would like to say for supporting this forum. I think we are working for the first time, and thank you for the trust that you have built in us. As this is a new experience for you, how do you envision AISL contributing to the long-term growth and evolution of your sector?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I think looking at the participation here and the panel through the course of the day, I would say there is a good amount of diversity that you managed to bring in. The kind of depth and the point you made about creating a direct connect with the end consumer is critical. We don't have such forums. So I think this is one way of putting across what a brand really stands for across to this forum here. A lot of the family offices which could be participating could be from Bangalore. I think it's a good opportunity for people who are Mumbai focused in that sense and doing something meaningful in the city to come and put their word across in terms of what you really stand for.
Sure. See, since this is open to pan-India developers to participate, because every year what we intend to do is cherry-pick cities which would have the right set of HNIs and open this up to everybody. But my question to you here particularly would be, do you feel that real estate really needs this today with the way things are progressing? What is your view on that?
Well, I think it's an opportune time is what I would say in a single way. When I look at the larger aspect of where we are, I think the leadership in this country has navigated the pandemic challenges really well. I think the leadership metal has stood out. The fiscally prudence strategy of the country, and talk of a finance minister, when I talk of the foreign minister, when I look at him talking of being a Vishwamitra, the world that I see is in difficult times today, and playing to the chaos, providing a stable environment, it itself will kind of lead to a lot of aspects that you spoke about, where people in developed countries have wealth, they're consolidating, they need a place to make this wealth work.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you look at a situation like India, which is a bright spot in an otherwise chaotic world, it gives a lot of confidence, number one. Number two, when I look at the country, I look at the demographic divide that the country today has and the dividend which is going to pay off. The average country age today at a median is 28, which is slated to be by the centenary of our independence, which is slated to be only 38. Right? So you're going to be at a median age of 38 for the next 25 years. We are a $4 trillion economy.
Absolutely.
Slated to be a $35 trillion economy
That's a huge
by
leap.
2047.
Yes.
This is not just a growth, right? This is a leapfrog that we are all in.
Absolutely.
And when you are in a leapfrog like this, you are going to have cyclicality in terms of wealth creation across assets.
Absolutely.
We are in one such situation where today, if you really were to ask a market expert, what's really the portfolio? I mean, a bulk of these guys would have bulked up post the pandemic and post the government stability into equity, right?
Yes,
Which is the
yes.
biggest discussion I have. When I meet clients or I meet my team, the biggest thing they say, hey, should I go into a fund or should I just buy a home with you? The fact of the matter today is all valuations across the world are in an overbought zone.
Absolutely.
If that hadn't be the case, the biggest investor wouldn't be sitting on piles of cash. He's cashed out of
Yes,
Apple today,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
He's sitting on a pile of cash. I'm talking about Berkshire Hathaway.
Yes.
Closer home, you look at the way the values have galloped. It's going to be a while for the next 15, 18 months in our sense where earnings will have to be built into this value,
Absolutely.
right? So
And all are rebalancing their portfolios.
absolutely.
now.
So the point that I was trying to make is it's the most opportune time where you've got this event happening, where this allocation balancing is going to happen.
See, because they were sitting on short-term debt and all, which is not giving them money.
True.
Now today, if you look at it, with equities doing well, real estate picked up. Again, a very, very, usually we say it has a transverse relationship with real estate and stock market.
True.
But last couple of years, if you see, the trends have been so similar. Both of them are either down or both of them are either up. So having said that, I think this is the time which we feel as that people are looking at real estate very seriously.
Very seriously, I mean, if you created wealth in the equity space,
Right.
there is no asset as tax efficient but to buy a home in the
Right.
country.
True.
If you are a hardworking professional, you are never going to get a rate of loan lower than what you get for your home loan. But when you look at these macro and structural factors, this bull rally is going to be here to stay.
Absolutely.
I'm extremely bullish and optimistic on the residential space. And I think in times to come, you will have several fragments to this play. One which Vimal mentioned
REIT,
was fractional
fractional,
ownership.
REIT.
But I think as when you talked of demography, as the country really grows older,
Correct.
there is going to be an advent of a lot of senior housing in this country. Today, you look at a young country, there is going to be a lot of scope for educational housing. And closer back, we were invited over to participate with the Department of Health and Education. We'd say, hey, you guys developers, why aren't you building dormitories for students?
Correct.
Why aren't you doing student housing?
Co-living.
And when you actually go to the developed world, suddenly investors there, they have a higher yield on student housing than on residential or commercial assets.
Yeah.
So what's happening there sooner than later lands up in a country like ours.
Yeah.
Their problems will become our problems as we age. And I think that's the broad stroke that I have, that this is going to be an exciting play with a kind of wealth creation, with the position this country is going to hold for the next 15, 20 years. And as we go towards the 35 trillion mark, there has been more than ample amount of opportunity in real estate. Hard assets are a norm for the next 2-3 years, and they're going to be the long-term play as well. So it's not just a short-term play. It's a short and a long-term play. That's where.
So you think that we should continue doing AISL every year in different cities?
Absolutely.
To bring in the best of guys?
Absolutely.
Great. So moving to Tejas, thank you for trusting us. You started off in 2 years, did wonderfully well, took a risk of, and we really, really appreciate that you have taken, you have believed in us to collaborate. How can AISL support your organization? One question. And how do you see contributing value yourself to family offices and HNIs?
Thank you. Very straightforward answer to it is, see, conferences are places where meeting of minds happen. That's in general, right? You go to such places because there is a lot of knowledge and wisdom here, correct, which you can exchange. In your own shell, you tend to make your own assumptions, which are usually, aloof, which are usually different from what actually the trend is outside. So you get to meet really the leaders in conferences like these, correct? This particular conference is different because here you've invited a lot of family offices and ultra HNIs, and also people who have made wealth doing the right things in life, correct? I mean, it's not as if someone was made wealth overnight. These guys are long-term wealth creators, so they also want to understand what's in it for them, who are they meeting, and whether it makes sense for them to even consider what's happening. And if not the people in this forum, but what else exactly is right? Like Ashish said, there are views that generate, and it gives them ideas as to where exactly would they allocate their capital. Correct. So I believe for us, we are a business which actually started for the investors. It's a very investor-centric model that we have created. These smaller things, they don't get seen unless you actually sit with them.
Correct.
Because the only thing you can't sell, the product is a trust. It's not a finance product that we are selling here. And that doesn't happen. You can't sell trust by words. You have to spend time with these people, and they see whether there is growth for them personally, with the youngsters in these family offices who are taking over, professionally for people who have been managing multi-family offices, and also technically, whether they are up to the mark.
Absolutely.
In forum like this. So for us, yes, we get an opportunity to showcase how we are different, which is what everyone wants, an opportunity at the end of the day, so that it's a win-win combination for everyone.
Absolutely, Tejas. Thanks. One thing before we end, I would like to add here, which I have seen in my career with real estate, and since I have stalwarts here with me, I'm sure you would agree to a certain extent that real estate developers typically, unlike banking sector, they focus largely on instant results. While with HNIs and family offices, it's a consistent effort to build relationship, which will eventually translate into large numbers and regular numbers. Do you think, as leaders from your respective fields, that today real estate builders have to start thinking differently when they are approaching this particular segment of clientele and not look at immediate, perhaps, gratification? Of course, if there is a need, there would be. But in otherwise, consistently building this relationship to look at the larger picture. So any thoughts any one of you can just share before we wrap this session up?
No, I think I'm very glad that you asked us this question, because this is part of, in a sense, as a developer, we've historically played the high-end game, the ultra-lux game. So in that sense, we understand the segment very well. And it's very interesting. If you visit any of our sales galleries, they're not the most fancy ones that you will see in the market. They're pretty basic. They're comfortable environments. But the interesting part is when we meet our clientele, they really do not assign that kind of weightage to the experience. They assign a lot more weightage to the developer performance. They assign a lot more weightage to transparency, which is what we really pride ourselves on. I mean, we would have tons of mistakes at a developmental level in our projects.
I'm sure.
But one thing that we always do right is listen to them. I think there is nothing which works better with family offices than listening to what they feel is right or wrong.
Yes, but what I'm asking, Ashish, is the patience, because that is something which I feel is lacking today, because most of the builders that we have spoken to, they say, acha, sorry, I'm just putting this across. Milenge kitna dhanda uthega? The first question. Of course, business is the ultimate objective. But then the whole idea is that, are we building relationships, or are we only looking at quickly getting them converted? So do you think that there needs to be a shift in the mindset?
Yeah. So adding to what Ashish said, Madhu, I think the realities of a listed player will always be there. The short term always is going to play out. I think there's no running away from that. There are equity investors, there are large institutional investors, so they expect certain performance. But I think, specific to your point, what is important is some of us who are, corporate developers, who are listed players, we are not here only for the short run, right? We are definitely here thinking about next 5 years, thinking about next 15 years, and we are a going concern. We've been there for the last 30 years. We hope to be there for next many decades, right? What is important is how are you able to create a win-win situation, both for the family owners and for the company.
Absolutely.
It will never work out if it's a one-way street. If the investor thinks that I need to make everything at the expense of somebody else.
Absolutely.
And even a developer will not be incentivized or very keen to say that, hey,
sure,
I need to make my money as well. I think there are enough and more opportunities which are available where you can create these synergies and a win-win proposition. And I personally feel that with all the money which is coming into the reality sector, I think everybody's going to have a good time. Ashish mentioned 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
I totally echo that. In fact, I'll go a step further. I said, hey, as long as if our Viksit Bharat dream has to play out, reality will play out. So I mean, that's a multi-year game.
Sure.
But yeah, lot can be done.
I wish all of you very best. Now, thank you so much, Vishal,
you.
Vimal, Ashish, and Tejas for sharing your insights and experiences today. I thought it would be a 30-minute session, but we were so engaging and it went short over here. It's indeed been an enriching conversation and extremely inspiring, let me tell you, for us as well. Your journeys remind us of all the importance of resilience, and innovation, leadership in these ever-changing times. So before we wrap up, I'd like to invite all of you to join me for a group photo.
Sure.
And let's capture this moment together and commemorate the insightful discussions today we had. Thank you once again. And we look forward to having you throughout the day today and some exciting conversations ahead. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you. Can we have the photograph?